The good, bad, and the ugly. Part 1, unprofessional appearances.
So one of the questions we get as a man, why is it important to have to not have bad hair? And I would say professional appearance is just as important as your academic background and just as important as your skill set in an interview, because it directly speaks to your organizational habits, your grooming habits. So if you're well groomed, chances are you care about your how you're perceived in the world, and in the world where perception is reality, that is important.
Right. So as a woman, we always get this question: how many sort of luxury or designer goods should I carry or should I wear to interviews? And that's a tricky question too, right? So I want to say 1 or 2 nice things is great, but you don't want to overdo it. You don't want to be decked out like a Christmas tree. What that does is it's going to take people's focus away from you, rather focus on the unimportant ancillaries. So don't overdo it. 1 or 2 nice things is more than enough going into an interview.
Another question we get is, what's the proper attire for the job? Are you well suited for the job? And my guidance would be, even if it's a workplace that's business casual. Well, first of all, research, the industry, research the company to the extent that you can. You should not be at any point showing up in jeans. You should be showing up in a suit that fits you well. For a man, it should not be something that's hanging off of you, that's 2 sizes, larger than you should normally wear. It should also not be too tight of a fit. So that could do more harm than good.
Right. And going back to women, 白富美, right? That's very much appreciated in Asia, but not quite so in this country. The key is to be natural, to look natural, come across as healthy. So if you are going to an interview, going to an event, don't over apply foundation. Just hopefully look your best, look energetic, and look professional.
On professional interaction, a question we get a lot is, for men, what constitutes a good handshake? I would say, step forward to the person that you're meeting, one solid handshake, one pump for 3 seconds or so, and then let go and step back, so to speak, right? No sweaty palms. You shouldn't be crushing the other person's hand, especially if it's a female on the other side. It should also not be, as a wane sort of vegetable, right? It should be firm. It shouldn't last too long. You should also have direct eye contact during it.
Right. The other thing we notice for women is the giggling, right? Giggling does nothing for me. It only makes you come across as weird. So try to take that nervous energy off yourself. Focus on the person that you're talking to. Have a real conversation. And if you are a giggler, just be mindful, be aware, and try to stay off that habit.
Right. Also try to maintain good eye contact and a relaxed body posture. You should not be leaning too far forward in an aggressive type of way across the table. You should not be drowning in your chair and appear too relaxed. It should be an upright, natural body posture with your shoulders down, that shows that you're calm enough, that you're in control, that you're confident, that you're breathing. So it should be a posture that's natural to you.
Right. Next thing on English names. I know a lot of us have English names. I sure do. If you have that, that's fine, but make sure it's professional, because your name is one of the very few first things that people form an impression of you, right? I've interviewed Chinese students whose English name is Queen, Queen, like the real queen. I've interviewed a gentleman whose name is Boston, like the city Boston. During networking events, I've met a young lady whose English name is Siri, like the little character in your iPhone. I'm not saying these are not acceptable names, but they just come across as less professional, and it doesn't reflect positively on you at first impression.
Yeah. chances are it would take more away from the interview than work in your
Right.
favor.
It's hard for people to take you seriously.
Applying pressure to candidates just to test them is something that is employed quite frequently.
Have you ever been that good cop or bad cop in an interview?
Absolutely, absolutely. And two-on-one interviews happens all the time. Actually, sometimes you have a good cop and a bad cop. Sometimes both are good, and the third person is sitting in the back and actually just silently taking notes. There are various techniques. Sometimes you have two bad cops, and then just to really put the pressure on you and turn up the heat. What people are looking for is just to see how you react. That you're able to just maintain your calm, that you're able to still focus and concentrate enough to answer questions and carry on with the conversation.
Yep. The other thing is TMI, too much information. Don't offer more than you need to, right? So during an interview, we've asked someone, what is your biggest failure so far in life? And the answer she gave us was, well, I don't have a boyfriend. If it feels a little too personal, it probably is. There's a fine line between a professional answer and a personal answer. So in that case, always staying on the professional side. If it's personal, keep that to yourself.
Right. Another question that comes up is when I stop talking,
During interviews,
during
right?
the interviews, or when the interviewer stops talking, what should be your reaction? What should be my reaction? And that could happen for a variety of reasons. It could also be a tactic, just to see what your reaction is. Sometimes an interviewer may pause in mid-thought. It can happen for a variety of reasons. My guidance would be to also pause and wait it out. Don't start giggling. Don't stop talking. Don't get up and try to end the interview or assume that the interview has ended. Just wait it out.
Right. One last question for this segment. What are the questions that you shouldn't be asking your interviewers, right? When you go to an interview, you should always have good questions for them at the end, but there's definitely bad questions you should stay off. For example, for us international students, I would never ask, do you sponsor international students, right? Because that's to our disadvantage. Chances are, if a company is willing to interview you and they like you, they will most likely be willing to work something out with you. Right. So there's no point of bringing that up, whether you sponsor international students, because that could very well take away from you and focus on something that's more of a burden for the company.